Extreme Darkness, Tenpai be able to adapt by incorporating the Fiendsmith package and become a deck that has a smaller Tenpai strategy, but still benefit from the fact that just one Tenpai is enough to outright win the game.
No, you're absolutely right. And here's our first Tenpai Dragon Hydra there. And I remember YCS Anaheim, everyone cheered when there were certain limits to cards they did not want to face. But the truth of the matter is, Tenpai Dragons are finding a way. After that Effect Veiler crashed down on Hydra, stopping any cards being added from the deck to the hand. Well, here's Fiendsmith Engraver to go ahead and add that Fiendsmith Tracking Stab.
Yeah, we see here the benefit of the Fiendsmith package. The Fiendsmith package is going to allow this deck to kind of alternate a little bit into a little bit more of a mid-range strategy, and especially when you incorporate 15, 20 different hand interactions. Utilizing the smaller Tenpai strategy with this kind of tried and tested mid-range strategy of Fiendsmith has actually been able to see a lot of success in the last, let's say, about a month or so.
Well, a lot of little light monsters here after Effect Veiler made its presence known, but looks like Ash Blossom going to go ahead and stop the Fiendsmith's Requiem.
I'll chain Jerusalem onto Engraver.
All right. So kicking back into high gear here.
So now we have the third interaction here from Taylor. It is a copy of Druis Worm.
Druis Worm certainly difficult to get through, not only getting rid of the Fiendsmith Engraver from the graveyard, but threatening any other monster if Druis Worm happens to be sent to the grave. But speaking of Bystials, looks like we are eating well, because here comes Bystial Magnum.
Yeah, it's almost unfortunately they didn't maybe Lubellion earlier, just to give him the utility of potentially counteracting. Really, never mind. You wouldn't be able to counteract the Druis Worm, but
True. That's
maybe
the thing.
potentially, yeah.
So many different directions you can go with this deck. What I love about really all of the decks in this tournament is there's a lot of non-linear play, and it's been really popular to combine these different engines and say, okay, I'm going to go this way for a while. Oh, you stopped it. No, I'm just going to go this way. I'm going to play this Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, counteracting with the Branded Regained, the banish of the Druis Worm, because now he'll have to banish himself if he wants the regain draw. Looks like he can actually do it here, though, by going into SP Little Knight. Yeah, this is a great... there's kind of multiple ways that the regain could have activated. One was having it on the field, so when the Druis Worm was banishing the Engraver, he would have been able to put back his own Engraver. Yeah, but this works too.
No longer has to worry about the Druis Worm, that's for sure.
Attempt to end main phase 1.
Yeah.
End phase, I'll resolve the effect of Magma.
Right, so now we're going to search with Magma, taking a quick look at the hand. I did catch, I think maybe not one, but two Effect Veilers. So Trevor is all locked in, loaded to go, and Taylor may have a hard time getting in.
All right, I'll go draw for turn.
Yep. I will put my deck.
So searching out the ball drake there, but now it is time for Taylor to draw.
Stand by main.
Yeah.
So we're getting
Pass.
in there.
Oh,
Pass.
no.
Wow.
Draw.
Turn after turn here of just passing. It's obviously not ideal here for Taylor.
Well, let's see what we end up doing. Taylor may be able to squeak by with this one, but Trevor does appear to have enough cards in his hand, so...
Targeting Requiem.
The problem here is now that Requiem is going to get shuffled back.
Regain trigger.
So he's just slowly but surely adding multiple cards to his hand every single turn with that Branded Regain. It's already drawn him 2 cards.
Definitely being able to recycle a lot of stuff too. And Baldrake, it's very powerful. You know, Druis Worm, obviously the bigger brother, able to get rid of stuff on its own, but Baldrake is no slouch there.
So he's going to have to just attack over the SP Little Knight too, because if he were to do anything, well, maybe not now, but the SP Little Knight would have also banished, and then Regain would have activated on the opponent's turn.
Oh, but speaking of Fiendsmith cards, we see Requiem back on the field, having just recently been returned to the extra deck, because any 2 effect monsters, hello Moon of the Closed Heaven, it is the Light Fiend. Right now, Lacrima hitting the field there. So shuffling up before we activate the effect there of Lacrima, maybe sending an additional card to the grave. Haven't seen a lot of Fiendsmith's Kyrie this tournament, but definitely still a lot of Fiendsmith's Paradise out there.
Yeah, so this is really where the Fiendsmith cards shine in these simplified game states where both players, well, in this case, mostly just Taylor, has been using hand interactions. As the player's hands get smaller and smaller and smaller, the ability just to constantly bait and rack Lacrima turn after turn after turn, especially now with this Regain on the field, there's these 2 just continuous avalanche building card advantage engines going on here. So Taylor's going to need something really impressive.
Yes, absolutely. But grabbing that Druis Worm, so powerful there, banishing again. Didn't use the Fiendsmith in Paradise in the graveyard, but still at least got another Fiendsmith Engraver, so just slowly but surely creating a field here that maybe can reach 8,000 life points in a single turn.
Late Jared
And now we see the second level 6 hit the field. I guess he actually already had Baldrake, so the third level 6. But now he's going to go into High Caesar.
Guess wanting to keep the Baldrake so that the Druid's Worm actually can be used to take out not one, but maybe 2 monsters, dependent on just the order of operations here.
Yeah, he's just threatening enough damage to attack for gain here.
Well, it's already pretty big, just shy of 8,000.
Yep.
We're just going to start attacking now, so 2,500, that magic Bystial number.
25.
Mm-hmm.
And then 20 hits.
Yep.
Need under 200.
200.
Main phase 2.
Most important life point is the last one you have, so still in the duel here, but it's going to be difficult. 2 summons obviously going to be able to stop from the Caesar, but we're also going to make, wow, 2 dragon monsters combining into Heraldic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres.
Yes. As I mentioned, that Tenpai
Standby main.
component of this deck is just so small. All of these just sort of mid-rangey,
Imperm on
Bystial, Fiendsmith cards. They generate card advantage turn after turn. They work really well with your own hand interactions. And if the game gets simplified, you have this huge benefit here because now you see he's the first time he's had to use a card like Effect Veiler.
Oh, but I see it. It's Triple Tactics Talent.
And then the
Oh, the Ash Blossom for the draw. And that's it, conceding the duel.
Standby main. 1, 2, pass.
Ooh, set 3 pass.
This has just not been Taylor's round.
Well, Taylor's got a smile on his face, certainly a good sense of humor, but just maybe not his moment. Now, he's only got 1 loss. You only need 19 points to make it to day 2, but it will certainly be an uphill battle if he does with that record.
So I have to imagine he has cards like Solemn Judgment set. He has 3 copies of Solemn Judgment in his side deck. He also has, of course, the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence in his main deck. Metal Tronus is another card that he could potentially have set that's an interaction. Besides that, in terms of spell and trap cards that would be set, he doesn't have a whole lot. So I have to imagine he has multiple copies of Solemn Judgment on top of multiple copies of Metal Tronus.
We may be getting back down to 200 life points before we know it, but it seems like Trevor is just getting unimpeded Fiendsmith gameplay now as he went from Track to Fiendsmith's Requiem, and now we brought out Lacrima.
Yeah.
Now, if those are Solemn Judgments, that is one of the issues, though, with the Solemn Judgment, because it can't stop monster effects. Stops pretty much everything else, though.
Solemn Judgment is also at its worst when you just simply didn't draw anything else with it, because the 4,000 life points can suddenly make it that even if you have 3 or 4 other interactions, it's not that difficult to put 4,000 on the board.
Certainly is not.
But we do here have a copy of Magnamut, so it doesn't have absolutely nothing. This Magnamut is going to have to do a whole lot for him, but it is at least a point of interaction against the Fiendsmith engine.
No.
Now, I did catch what I see to be a Nibiru there in Trevor's hands, so Taylor is going to have his work cut out for him if the Primal Being is coming down there. But it looks like Trevor just sort of shaping up there, figuring out what the next option is.
I have to imagine that he has Infinite Impermanence set based on sort of the cards that have been activated so far.
Go ahead and attach the Fiendsmith Requiem to Lacrima, setting a card, not in the Imperm column as it's called.
All right, this is
pass! Wow.
This is exactly where the Fiendsmith cards, typically shine, is when the game is really simplified. However, that one single copy of Magnamut really throws a wrench into that game plan because obviously we saw it banish the Engraver this turn. Now adding Druid's Worm. It'll be interesting to see if just these Bystials can bring Taylor to victory. But it's not a bad start. He already sort of has a counter to that Lacrima. / sequence constantly giving him card advantage every turn.
I'll go Metaltron. Targeting
And there's the Metal Tronus.
All right, so that's one of the cards we presumed he would have had set. There's nothing that he can do in his hand to stop that. Looks like he just has Nibiru, Effect Veiler, Droll, and Lockbird. And I think he has a copy.
Looks like Tenpai Dragon, Fadra, and Pydra.
I think it's one of them.
Okay, yeah.
Based on what I see.
Yeah.
I think it's Fadra from what I can discern, but sometimes it's hard to tell.
All right, so it's the Light Fiend, but it's not the same card there. So we are going to use Metal Tronus, not banishing both, but just using that as an easy way into Fiendsmith Requiem.
Yeah, it's one of the best interactions. It's one of the reasons why Metal Tronus is so popular this weekend. You can stop a detonator with it. Of course, you can just instantly go into your own Fiendsmith engine. So it's one of the reasons why we are seeing more and more copies of Metal Tronus. I mentioned in a previous feature match that going forward into the events next weekend, I think you had mentioned the French Open is tomorrow. the first event after a new set, it's kind of that first iteration of the decks, things start to get really refined. Maybe Metaltronus will be what is
Chaos
refined.
Angel to banish Lacrima.
Certainly information that all the duelists getting ready for YCS Birmingham can use. I mean, I remember that Metaltronus, the last time I feel I saw it popular was when Paolo at the end of YCS Indianapolis flipped it over.
Absolutely.
Everyone went insane, but now it's pretty common.
Wow, so we see here a Forbidden Droplet. That's going to be a way of dodging the Chaos Angel. And then, of course, he also banished the Fiendsmith in Paradise after the summon of Chaos Angel. He used a Lacrima and a Magnuma, so he did, in fact, use a Light and Dark.
All the effects are active.
So Droplet
not
results.
destroyed by battle, unaffected by cards.
Yeah, I will negate the Chaos Angel.
Until now, of course.
Of course, yeah. But it was with a Light and a Dark, at least initially at the time.
Send Desiree.
Now he's going to be able to send Desiree, and now Desiree is going to be able to
Desiree
activate.
effect.
He's going to
Send that
shuffle back,
directly, and I'll target the,
and now he'll actually be able to send that Chaos Angel to the graveyard. So
No response.
we already know the game state is rather simplified, and I mean, there's the Druis Worm that's in hand. The question is, does he have a
Talents to
Ryzeal? Okay, this is also one of the possibilities, was
Did
that he had a card
I
like Talents in his hand.
I think you need to cut.
Uh,
I've not gone back in.
So maybe his opening hand was Magnuma, Talents, Metaltronus,
Yeah, so he should need to.
and I presume a quantity of Infinite
Yeah, so you should
Impermanence
need to cut, right?
/ Solemn Judgment set.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to go ahead and cut here. Obviously, drawing 2 cards is going to be huge here, depending on what they are. So let's see what this Pot of Greed like effect did. Oh, Droll and Lockbird actually canceling stuff out from here on out.
It's actually unfortunate he doesn't have Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring because he has just about every other hand interaction with the Nibiru and the Effect Veiler.
Well, speaking of hand interactions, looks like we have the Summon a Bystial Druid's Worm getting rid of that Desiree. Just 25.
Yeah, the Requiem's no longer in the graveyard, so that obvious Requiem plus Lacrima loop is out of the way, at least for right now, until Requiem potentially gets its way back into the graveyard. So I can understand
Set one.
kind of looking at this and seeing, he drew another Infinite Impermanence. Presumably he has 1 set, maybe 2 sets. Could be 3 Infinite Impermanence, honestly. That Infinite Impermanence is probably there with Solemn Judgment. Maybe a second Metaltronus, I guess. So he's really going to just try and ride that Druis Worm.
Well, speaking of riding things, we are going to take the Dragon on a ride here. So we go for Tenpai Dragon Fadra. And I think that is Chundra, so we're getting like very close to being 1 card away from victory, as Tenpai is known for.
The 1 Chundra and the 1 Fadra.
I mean, just find him in the deck somehow, right? It looks like a
Enter
Nibiru
battle
and
is
Effect Veiler there, so it's
fine.
really just up to these 2
Thinking
dragons to
start.
win things out.
He has 2 hand interactions. So yeah, this is really it. Because that Druis Worm can actually potentially go the distance.
You're good.
Oh, wow. So I think here,
On declaration, I'll go Imperm onto Chandra.
That's very strong, forcing out a quick synchro. That would be the only way to get through this. Now the Fadra, obviously, you're still going to have the protection from battle, but you're not going to have the special summon during the damage step since Chundra was the one that was targeted.
all right, so now he's going to quick synchro like you mentioned.
There was 1 attack that will be relevant later.
Yep, we do have to keep track of those, even if it didn't fully connect. Get the Biden Dragon.
We got to get the Fadra there, so a tuner and a non-tuner on the field. Using Fadra's effect there because we didn't actually have any Tenpai Dragons in the graveyard. Remember, that Chundra came from the hand. It's
Yeah.
the second attack.
Oh, wow.
And it's because it never had to activate
Yeah.
the effect. Now it can. We just reached the damage step, so here's Pydra to prevent any battle damage.
Yeah.
I think he just has 2 Solemn Judgment set at this point.
Yeah, I really think you're right. Now, you could use the Solemn Judgment in order to negate the Synchro Summon, but I just feel like it's a bad idea to cut your life points in half against the almighty Tenpai Dragons here. Oh, and Sangen Kaimen as well. Could use that to maybe get a Tenpai Dragon, Genroku, tribute it out, do something funny, but let's see where we go as we're reaching 3 attacks before we know it.
I'll go effect to Synchro.
As we use the Chundra's effect to Synchro, so we haven't done Fadra's
Yeah.
yet. Oh, we're going for big stuff now. Level 10 Synchro. So Sangenpai Transcendent Dragon hitting the field.
Transcend the current Joker.
Yep. I'll take 5.
500. 75.
Yep.
Definitely good stuff there, huh? I mean, the fact that you no longer can worry about the effect of the Druid's Worm because they can't activate effects during the battle phase.
17 direct.
Yep.
I am really curious what...
Kaimen.
Okay, so it's not...
It's not over yet.
It will be here, though.
17 direct with Hydra.
Yep, it's me to 26.
It hasn't used Fadra's
Yeah,
quick
the Biden
synchro.
Dragons are
there
going
it
to come back out.
is.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, because then that